absurdity of where we are right now. If one of you went out to a car dealership today and you wanted to buy a new car, you could buy that car with 1 or 2% interest rates. Millions of people refinance their homes and their other debt when interest rates go down. But graduates of college are stuck with high interest rates. Guy in my office paying 9% interest on his student debt. So we're going to allow people with student debt to refinance their loans at lower interest rates. And second of all, the federal government today makes a pretty hefty profit on these student loans. Well, in my view, the government should not be making profit off of the backs of low-income and working families who are trying to send their kids to college. So if we do those two things, we can go a long, long way in lowering student debt. Let me just conclude, and there's a lot more to talk about, but I want to hear your questions and your thoughts. Let me go back to the original point that I made. What the Republicans and what the Koch brothers want is a demoralized American public, where people feel helpless and don't believe that change can take place, where billionaires buy elections, where voter turnout is extremely low. That is their idea of democracy. It really isn't. And our idea is a very, very different one. Our idea is that there's something fundamentally wrong in this country when in the last election, 63% of the American people didn't vote, 80% of young people didn't vote. So what a political revolution is about is to make sure that all of our friends and our neighbors and our family understand that we understand what the Koch brothers understand. When people tell you that politics is crap, why are you coming to meetings to hear from a senator that no one has ever heard of, from a state that nobody knows about? Why are you so dumb to waste your afternoon in a meeting like this? Tell them that if the Koch brothers, the second wealthiest family in America, are prepared to spend $1 billion on the election, if they believe that politics is important, maybe folks who are trying to afford to go to college or pay for their health care bills, they might understand that politics is important as well. In the last number of years, a lot has happened in our country that we should be very, very proud of. And by the way, Iowa has played a disproportionately important role in some of those developments. And I'll tell you how. Everybody in this room knows that we have a very tragic history of racism in America, and we know that still exists today. But we also know that if we were standing here 30 or 40 years ago, and somebody said, you know, I think America is becoming mature enough that we will elect an African-American president in the year 2008. If somebody said that 30 years ago, people would have said, you're crazy, that will never happen that soon. And that guy would be reelected 4 years later with a very big vote, nobody would have believed it. But Iowa helped lead that effort. And this is what Iowa did. No secret, Iowa is largely a white state. But what you said is that we're going to look at a candidate based on his ideas and his qualities, not the color of his skin, and you made history by doing that. And there's no question, we still have a lot of racial issues, very serious problem. We should be proud that as a nation we have made some real advances. Women's rights. I remember when I was mayor of the city of Burlington in the 1980s, we appointed the first police officer who was a woman. Oh, what a big deal it was. But in recent years, as a result of the struggle of millions of women and their male allies, we have knocked down barrier after barrier after barrier, and we've got to knock them all down. All down. Which among many other things, means pay equity for women workers. I want you to tell another make another point, which we now take for granted, but we shouldn't. 50 years ago in this country, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, when a couple had a baby who had a disability. You know what happened to those babies in those days? People were embarrassed, they were ashamed that they had a child who was disabled. The child would be institutionalized, nobody would know about that baby. That child would be kept out of sight. As a result of a lot of work on the part of the people in the disability community, and by the way, your former Senator Tom Harkin helped lead that way. America's attitude and approach toward the disabled has been radically transformed. And now in classrooms all over America, kids with disabilities are loved, are welcomed into the classroom. They are part of the human community, and we love them and we respect them. That didn't happen by itself. It happened because millions of people said enough is enough. And last but not least, and I can give you many examples, if we were sitting here not 40 years ago, not 20 years ago, but 10 years ago, and somebody raised their hand and said, you know what? I believe that conservative states in America will vote to approve gay marriage. People would think we're totally crazy, but that's what's happening. And on that issue, I'm proud of my state of Vermont for helping to lead that effort. But here's my point. What's my point? We have become, over the last decades, a much less discriminatory society, and we should be proud of that. But there remains in front of us one enormous struggle that continues, and that is the economic struggle. And in that area, not only are we not gaining, we are substantially losing ground. The rich are getting richer. Almost everybody else is getting poorer. We have in this country today 45 million people living in poverty. We have kids who are hungry. We have massive income and wealth inequality, which is getting worse and worse. And these guys on top, Koch brothers and these other billionaires, they are very religious people. Their religion is greed. And they want more and more and more. And in their way to get more and more, they are prepared to destroy Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, Environmental Protection Agency, you name it. They want it all. So the question that we face right now is, can we effectively organize? Can we educate our brothers and sisters? Can we make sure that people do not continue to vote against their own best economic interests? The billionaire class obviously wants what the Republican Party is doing. More tax breaks for the very wealthy, massive cuts in every other program. But honestly, I do not believe that that is what the average Republican in Iowa wants to see. And our job is to educate and organize. So let me just conclude again by thanking all of you for coming out today. This is a fantastic turnout. And if we stand together, and by that I don't only mean in this campaign, but as a nation, if working people in the middle class stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Think big, not small. Let's go forward together. Let me say this again. I appreciate it. It ain't Bernie, it's you. I'm going to do my job. But absolutely, positively, I cannot do it alone. If you think I can, you're wrong. We have got to go forward together. So it's you. Not just Bergen, believe me on that one. Okay.